Oh, hi there. Well, I guess if you wanted my secret for consuming books, this is it. It's a bit literal, I know, but hey, it works. Although it does wreak havoc on your digestive system. Speaking of... But in all seriousness, have you ever felt like you only remember the information you consume for a couple days or weeks at best? And by the time you pick up the next book or read the next article, the stuff that you wanted to remember is already starting to fade away? What if you could develop a system for capturing the things that resonate the most with you and have it easily accessible to review and engage with later on? If you could turn a 300-page book into a single page that means the most to you? In this video, I'm going to cover the tools and habits I wish I knew about years ago to help me better consume information and do just that. This system relies on two things. Number one, that we have tools in place to capture and store information in a way that requires the least amount of effort possible. And number two, that we develop a habit of actually using the system to capture anything that resonates with us. With the digital tools that I'm going to walk you through, we have an easy and reliable way of capturing and storing this info without trying to remember it all in the space between our ears. David Allen, author of Getting Things Done, says that minds are for having ideas, not for storing them. Developing the capture habit ensures that potentially life-changing ideas find a permanent home and have a chance to resurface for deeper thought and consideration. If all we ever do is stay at the surface, going from one idea to the next without being able to reliably revisit meaningful content, then we will severely stunt our ability to grow and develop. So I consume three main sources of information that I've developed a consistent capture habit for, and that is books, websites or articles, and email newsletters. The goal of this capture system is to get everything into a single repository, and the app that I use for that is Readwise. So let's walk through how my system works. For books, the capture habit is easy. Using my Kindle, I simply highlight anything that interests me. Sometimes I still read paper books. That used to be my preferred method of reading before I started this capture habit. So now if I'm reading for pleasure, it's usually a physical book, or if it's for learning, then it's usually a digital one. If I'm reading a physical book, I can use the Readwise app to capture any highlights by scanning the page with the app and the camera on my phone. It will recognize and store the text. Ultimately, I found this a little time consuming, which meant that there was a little bit too much friction, so I tended to be way more selective than what I really wanted to be. So that's the big reason why I switched to the Kindle. Readwise is able to import my Kindle highlights, so whether I capture something from a digital or paper book, they all end up in the same place. So what about if I'm reading something on my web browser that I want to capture? Maybe it's an article or a blog post. I have two ways that I process these. If I want to capture the whole thing to read later, or there is a lot of really good stuff that I may want to refer back to, then I'll send it to Instapaper. Instapaper is a really cool read later app where you can send all the stuff that you don't have time to read in the moment, but you don't want to worry about losing the link to. You can just send it to Instapaper and it will show up in your feed there to read when you have a chance. A key feature for a capture habit is that when you highlight something in Instapaper, you can have it linked to your Readwise account so that it will automatically show up there as well. If what I want to capture is just a short passage, then I can use the Chrome Readwise extension to capture it directly. Finally, for email newsletters, if there's anything in the newsletter that I find particularly interesting, I will forward the email to Instapaper. When you get an Instapaper account, they give you a unique email address that you can forward things to, and then it'll show up in your Read Later feed. Then, just like with web pages, anything I want to highlight there ends up in Readwise. Another cool function that I'll mention about Readwise is the daily highlight, where the app will actually give you a selection of your highlights every single day that you can go in and review. The main reason you want to get all of this into Readwise is so that you can export all the information you ingested into your second brain so that it can be digested. I use Roam Research, but it can also be exported into things like Notion or Evernote. In future videos, I'm going to talk more about what a second brain is, but it's all about personal knowledge management using digital tools to supplement your organic first brain. It's a concept I learned about from Tiago Forte, who actually runs an entire course on building a second brain. One last word of advice when starting this habit is Don't make it too hard on yourself by trying to figure out whether or not something is worth capturing. Trust your gut. If it feels right to you in the moment, just go ahead and capture it. If you overthink it, then that will increase the friction and make the habit that much harder to stick. Just think about how fun it is to highlight things. You'll have an opportunity to refine it all later. Capturing more now is better than not capturing something that will be potentially useful later on. So get out there and start highlighting. It's never too late to start.